stir it up and do things our way. So if you wanna move, get out of our way.
Greetings, darlings. Darlings. I'm still working on my LVP accent for you guys.
That's gonna be, maybe you should get a dialect coach.
Yeah. Ask Kyle. Kyle's is good.
Yeah.
LVP thinks it's not, but it's pretty good.
Oh, Kyle is good at it. I think that's why LVP hates it. LVP is one of those housewives. I mean, they're all a little bit a lot narcissistic, but LVP is truly one who can't take it. She can dish it, but as we see, she walked away from the show. She can't take the heat. So I'll stick to my Luann impression since we both have the same amount of nicotine coating our vocal cords.
I love she had a TikTok out the other day, and she was walking along the street in New York, and she had a cigarette in her hand, and I was like, yes, making smoking cool again.
How with Countess, she's my queen.
Well, we're not talking about New York today.
Right. I was gonna say, but what we're here for, of course, is it's the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 1 rewatch. And of course, before we take you inside behind the gates of Beverly Park and in the closets where they hide all their skeletons, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and of course, hit us up on social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and also now YouTube. So don't forget that.
You can see our beautiful punums on YouTube. Yay!
Well, I guess we should dive right in, even though it's summer here. It was Easter in episode 2. Easter in Palm Springs, it opens. The Richard Umansky Vanderpump trip.
In that tiny old house.
The house. It is the house, just so you guys know.
This the goddamn house.
This, for you guys, if you guys don't know, this is the house Kim is screaming about in the limo, which will be, I can't wait to tell you guys about that when we get to it. But this is the goddamn house that Big Kathy, their mother, left to them. And that's where the source of the conflict is. And it means a lot to them too, because like you were saying, it's a little small. It's not grand like we associate with them, but it is where Big Kathy went to convalesce. It's where she passed. So that's why it's such a heat. You would think people with these big mansions wouldn't care so much about a regular house, but it means a lot to the sisters emotionally.
I was like, oh, this house is so tiny. It's so old. They had 11 people staying in this house for the weekend, like with one refrigerator. Like this is not 2014, 2015, even 2023 Kyle Richards.
Yeah, no. It's fun to actually see because it is a lot more humble. When this show started, Mauricio and Kyle were, I would say, upper middle class. I mean, they were doing well, but they were not. She would, like we see here, how intimidated she is by Vanderpump because her lifestyle isn't as grand. I mean, now we see her, she's competing with her sister Kathy, but back then she was like, remember her season, I think season 2 was I may not be the richest housewife, but I'm the luckiest.
Yep.
Now she's one of the richest.
I don't want to say like it was the have and have nots in the early season, but now, now season 13, like everybody's wealthy except for Erica.
Yeah.
But back then it was like Adrienne, LVP, and Camille were way up there. And then they show those aerial shots, like especially, I know Kim moves out of that house, but when they showed the aerial shot of hers before it introduced it as Kim's house, I was like, who the hell's house is that? Why are we looking at that on Beverly Hills? So it's just different. Like it's odd.
Yeah.
I wrote down, wow, that God, back then it doesn't even look like it's in high def. Like the quality of the video even seems bad. It looks like it's in SD. I wrote down it's not as glamorous as it currently is. And then fast forward and LVP's spending $1,000 on a chocolate Easter bunny. So I'm like, okay, so she's still as glamorous. Okay.
Oh my God! Before we get to that, her chocolate shop venture, I do have to say because we were talking about how it's a little more humble on this trip, and you get to see early Kyle. They go to the grocery store. That would never be allowed in today's Beverly Hills. What a what a common little errand to do. But what I loved is you see Kyle, you see her first Birkin in the show, which now we know she's a huge like worldwide collector, but she has the basic Birkin, the tan entry level Birkin, if you could call a Birkin entry level.
Her
But it's
freshman Birkin.
it's the one like you have to get before you build up to the exotic skins and rare colors that she rocks now. And another fun fact in there was when she's checking out, of course, I had to freeze frame it from her basic Birkin. This is very 2010. She pulls out her black Amex, the black card that had swept the.
Oh, that was part of the zeitgeist. Yeah.
Had a black card. You were the coolest person in the room back then.
I had a black Chase card, just like a Visa that was dark black and heavy, and I like friends would see me put it down on a check and they'd think it was a black card. They're like, "Ooh, look at you." I'm like, no.
What else do we have in this trip to of course, the other thing, just one fun fact, I do like seeing Mauricio here because it is set, the style is so like mid 2000s, middle age, not even middle age. It was like, but it was night out clothes, like how women had going out tops, you know, and going out pants. There was that formula, the sky top style. He has the Burberry button down with the cuff folded up just once, flared out so you can see the plaid. And it is so like, it was stylish for the time. Things have changed. It's a time capsule this season.
It made me sad to see the way that Mauricio and Kyle interact, because back then he would rib her kind of the same way, like when she was packing 9 pairs of shoes for a weekend, and he would give her shit for it. But back then they were happily married, so she kind of had a funny retort back. Whereas now you fast forward to season 13, he's trying to make things seem normal by playfully ribbing, and she's just shooting him daggers because she does not like want to be around him. So it made me sad. I mean, granted, I've seen only the first season and the 13th season, so I haven't seen it devolve over the years. But this couldn't have been more polar opposite than season 13.
For most, this is why, I mean, that's the current stuff, but this is why their divorce is so shocking. From day one, they were like one of the tightest Bravo couples, the ones we thought would last.
Yeah, they seem really happy.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of passion and admiration to come, affection.
Well, this is why I go, like, sometimes marriages just sometimes fall apart over the little things that like slowly chip away. Like, it is kind of cute, for a few years of like, oh, are you still packing, 15 pairs of shoes for a weekend? And then after 20 years, it's like, don't you know me? Can we just stop? Like it stops being a joke and it starts being a criticism sometimes is how people hear it. And it goes on both sides, So I think it's just like, oh, that joke that used to land no longer lands anymore. And like, you have to like, adjust your relationship, and they didn't adjust their relationship.
No.
So
he acts the same way. Like he makes the same like jokes, the same comments. The only way you'd know it was different is that he looks older, and her reaction to it is completely different. Otherwise,
that's what they say. They say men marry hoping that the woman will never change, and women marry hoping that the man will change. And so, and you actually, and you see that in that marriage. He doesn't, in a sense, he doesn't change, and she does, and they can't deal with that. Oh, I didn't think about that till just now.
You're welcome.
Well, thank
She's
you, Nate.
changed a lot, we could say. We're getting early faces. We're getting basic Birkins.
We're just actually, I think, post one nose job on Kyle. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Nate, you brought up LVP's trip to the chocolate shop where she gets that $1,000 bunny. And I love that scene because it triggered this like buried memory in the back of my head, because you see her in there talking what she's also picking up is a pair of replica chocolate Louboutin shoes, which of course another time capsule. Those were the hottest things back then. And LVP's talking about how she was just with Christian Louboutin last night. I have a fun fact about her and her Louboutin fetish. The Housewives still bring it up and make fun of it behind her back.
Ooh.
Early seasons, she shows her closet filled with Louboutins, etc. But she was filming a lot, changing a lot. And so what she would do is send Ken down to Aldo in Century City. Aldo's like a Zara style store. Figure $100 shoes versus $1,000, but they're kind of like designer knockoffy inspired. He would buy a stack of Aldos, then take them to this shady little store in downtown LA. Can you imagine him driving like through the back alleys in his Bentley with Jiggy? And there was a store that would paint the heels Louboutin red, paint the soles.
Ooh.
So not all hers were real. I mean, she really pushed with the Louboutin. That was like her thing in the beginning of the show. But like out of practicality with filming, and she don't want to spend like $50,000-$60,000 in shoes the first season. So some of them were fake.
Wow.
Well, people don't get rich in Beverly Hills by spending all their money.
Yeah, she was actually smart to do it, but it like they still make fun of it. Anytime you bring up Louboutin, they're like, "Remember Lisa?"
I noticed with the chocolate, Louboutin's famously very litigious. Like they own the rights to red-soled shoes, trademark completely. Nobody can make red-soled shoes. Sneaker companies can't do red soles. Like they've gone out and stopped them. And the first thing I noticed with the chocolate is that those were clearly supposed to be Louboutins, but the bottom wasn't red. It was like a magenta. It was like an off red, because I'm sure the chocolatier is even like, I'm not playing with this. I'm not going to get sued for a chocolate shoe. So I'm just going to go with purple this time.
Yeah. Oh my God. The two, since we're talking about Mauricio and Kyle and the evolution of their bickering, how about that warm, loving couple, Adrienne and Paul?
I have written down in my notes, Adrienne hates Paul.
Yeah. Like, first thing I have down is, do Adrienne and Paul even like each other? That was the opening. It was the opening scene of the show. And I didn't know until I talked to you guys. I honestly did not know that they're no longer together, because she's not on the show anymore. So I just didn't know, because there was one of those things like where he felt like he was playfully ribbing with her and she wanted no part of it.
Right.
He was trying to act like his jealousy and everything was sort of cute, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Or the turkey thing.
The turkey thing was weird. God, he
I was annoyed by the turkey thing.
He must be the most annoying person in the world to eat with. The way he was ordering it fucking drove me crazy.
I think he's one of those because he got his start on Dr. 90210. That's where I had first heard of Adrienne Maloof, because she was a wife, so she'd appear sometimes. And the same, I feel like it was very similar to, now they're partners on TV, but Heather Dubrow and Terry Dubrow, who was also on reality shows before Housewives, and he urged Heather to sign on to Orange County. I think Paul actually likes the camera more than his wife.
I would agree.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But oh man, he's like, I don't think he's a bad guy. I just think he's just annoying. I think he has a certain type of sense of humor that only a younger woman who
needs his money.
Yeah, basically, that's what I'm saying. Like, she doesn't, like, that's the thing. Like, also though, there was a little bit of me as like, well, it is always good to like marry a man who loves you a little bit more than you love him. But I don't think you want that to be like more of like a 51-49 split. You don't want it to be like a 75-25 split like that was. So also, I mean, there are perks because obviously she had a lot of money. So you know, there you go.
Can we talk about her money a little?
Yeah, please.
This
Let's
is
do
fun
that.
because it took me. They take us to the Palms for her photo shoot, which I loved watching and seeing. And like I've been to Vegas with a casino owner, so I like seeing all that stuff. But something you guys need to know: the hotel was already slipping from her control. She wouldn't. By season 2, they had lost the Palms, the Maloof group. At this point, they were starting to default on. So this was filmed early 2010, and they did own the Palms, and they and by spring 2011, they had to sell 98% of their shares in the hotel because they had defaulted on the mortgage. They were the developers of the Palms. So her business, then I wonder if that contributed to her frustration. Is that the business, what they still own the Kings? I'm not saying they were broke, but they were having, the Maloof side was having financial issues, and that hotel wouldn't be hers for very long.
And that might even play into what season 2, her getting mad at Lisa for not doing her event at the Palms or staying at the Palms, which we'll get into whenever we do season 2.
Spoil this for me.
So, but look, there is canon. There's been 13 years for you to get behind this, Nate. So
I'm a late bloomer. Okay.
But it also makes me go, how do you like? Casinos are just like handing you money. How do you not make money with a casino?
I know.
It's really hard to be unsuccessful at a casino. Yeah, it is.
It seems like to me. Like, I mean, you have to have a certain amount of money to buy into it, to get there in the first place. But then and you need to know how to manage it. Yeah, but then it just seems to be like you can just print money, baby. Like, hello. My God. Anyway, well, that's somebody's gonna go, Stacy's wrong, and I'll be like, whatever.
Honestly, they say the same thing about sports franchises. Like, it's very hard to lose money once you already own the team, and they fucked up the Kings too. So something in that family is,
Yeah.
And well, I do want to know if somebody can let us know where the model Shaw is now. I would like to do where are they now with him? Because I hope he's not married with children and he's straight. I mean, if he's gay, that's fine too. Maybe he's married with children as well. But if he's not,
you want him for the reasons Paul worried Adrienne.
Yeah,
exactly.
He was making, was it his Shaw was his name? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, Shaw.
Yeah,
I wrote it down. Hello.
Paul was like making him uncomfortable by like trying to be like, I'm the husband, just so you know, I'm the husband. And Shaw's like, oh, okay, sure, why not? He was just playing along.
Too funny.
Oh my God. You know what else, bro? Speaking of okay, so we had Adrienne kind of, she was the grandest when the show premieres, but we now know she was losing her mind. Things weren't going so great behind the scenes. But if you guys, I hope when you were watching, when Camille goes into her homes, I needed to take whatever. I was getting palpitations. It was just magical.
I was going to say you were getting something else, but
I'm a lady. I'm a gentleman.
Yeah.
You're making me blush.
I'd like to make you blush.
That's why you need to watch us on YouTube.
Exactly. So you can watch it when I make Jordan red.
Camille's real estate portfolio was absolutely insane. And so on top, and she lists it off. And I mean, I think I need to dig it up. I think maybe sometimes I stay up at night, stone falling asleep, thinking about Camille's contributions. I think I think I've tweeted here on PCP, her portfolio of homes. So on top of that, Malibu estate, which is amazing. They also, what she was referring to, they also had a home in Holmby Hills, another home in Beverly Hills. They had the apartment in New York, which she's finishing, even though she'll never live there. We'll get to that in a second. The house in the Hamptons, multiple homes in Hawaii, which we'll see, and also the mansion in Colorado, Beaver Creek. I think that's Aspen adjacent. I went there as a kid once. So it's
Vail
Aspen-ish.
adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I skied there when I was small. Anyway,
Mm.
I mean, I loved it when she was meeting with that interior designer, or interior decorator on La Cienega. I knew exactly where that store is because I was like,
Yeah,
oh
I did.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
it's so great.
I
But
recognize.
I thought it was such foreshadowing. It makes me go, did he know? But when the interior designer said something about that she would just be like a temporary guest, like in her own home about that. And I was like,
Mm.
did he already know that Kelsey was stooping that other woman? Oh no.
Because he came in from New York too. So he would have
Exactly.
probably had to like stop by the apartment, see
He
what
had
he's
floor
working with.
plans.
Mm-hmm.
He had floor plans.
He probably
Yeah.
saw the flight attendant mistress's stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like Camille would never wear these.
These fake Louboutins.
You deal with that a lot, probably. Realtors always know because they know. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The production. Oh, so, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say production. So they leaned into in the way the show was edited, how big her property is. That was the bulk of it takes place at her Malibu house. Like when they're
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Mhm.
yeah. The way she was leaving the house to go to her meeting, and she's like takes her little notebook and is walking down the driveway, then walking down the driveway, and it just kept showing her walking farther and farther, and you're like, where in the hell is she going? I was like, I thought she was walking to her car. I have no idea. And then it just turns out she's walking to a different building on the same property.
Mhm.
But they totally leaned into it by like showing her walking and walking it. Like they didn't need to, except to make it look like, oh, this is crazy. It's the same property.
Yeah.
And I like it when she steps out of the main house and she's got with her notebook and she's got this very like, I'm on a businesswoman's walk. I am very important. Like I invented Post-its or like I do my own stunts. Like that was the whole walk, like very, very important walk all the way down there to the Kelsey's office barn.
I love her smug. She says everything, especially in her confessionals, but also in her solo scenes. Everything is said with this smug smirk.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's bursting with joy while she humble brags. I don't want to focus on that I have 9,000 bedrooms and my husband's an A-lister, but which he needs to get over, by the way. He's sitcom.
Yeah.
It's what made her unlikable, and it also made it hard for people to really feel for her when it came out that Kelsey was cheating on her, like because she was so smug. But also I don't think she just couldn't see herself because that's the world that she lived in. She'd lived in that bubble for so long. She didn't realize how she sounded to everybody else.
Yeah.
She's trying to like they mentioned last week, she wants to be out of Kelsey's shadow, but she clearly also relishes being Kelsey Grammer's wife. But when she was talking about their production company, it's like called like Kelnet or Kelsey Net or something, where she was like trying to list off her bona fides about how she's a talented producer, not just Kelsey Grammer's wife. And she essentially tried to take credit for discovering Patricia Arquette, which was just a weird throwaway line where she was just going through all these things that she's done. And she's like, yeah. And I told these television producers to check out an actress named Patricia Arquette when they were casting Medium, which would have been about 5 years before this was shot. And it's like, no, you didn't discover Patricia Arquette. Sorry. But sure, take credit for it. All right. Okay.
Fine. Yeah. Like she doesn't come from an acting dynasty or anything
acting
like
dynasty. That. Married to Nicolas Cage for 6 years, starred in a Quentin Tarantino movie. But no, yeah, Kelsey Grammer, Camille Grammer, you discovered her. Good for you.
She's like, what else do the Arquettes having going on their pathetic little careers? Everyone should thank Camille. I love her. Honestly, she's my go-to example of how awful people make wonderful housewives. I mean, she was just perfect. Yeah, she was perfect for it. She lacked self-awareness. She was full of herself. She was rich. She was hypocritical. She was everything you look for in casting a house like that Andy has described. I mean,
I know it's awful, but in the episode, in her meeting with Kevin, the writer producer, they were talking about a show that they were pitching to Nickelodeon. It's supposed to be a kids show about the relationship between a daughter, I guess a wealthy little girl, and the nanny. And my immediate thought is, well, she can't really write anything about a daughter and a mother because she knows nothing about that. Nothing. In the first episode, I felt like she introduced herself to her own kids. So the nanny daughter relationship is pretty much all she knows. And now I got, and then they made a point. The writer was telling Camille about the pitch to the network, and the network said, well, we really think this should be a Nick at Night show, which is slightly older skewing. So I don't know anything. Did this show ever come to fruition?
I don't think so.
Because I'm very curious where Kelsey and Camille thought a kid's show and a network thought it should be a slightly more adult show. I'd really like to know what exactly the show was.
To be honest with you, that's just like producer network talk of, we think this sucks and we're just trying to be nice to you because you're Kelsey Grammer's wife.
That's fair. That sounds about right. Yeah.
That is what that is. So yeah. So that's why when she was on the phone with Kelsey and she said, they've said Nick at Night, that's why I was like, oh, well, I got to go do a show now because he knows it's done. Nobody wants this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know who popped up in this? This was a big one since we're in Malibu talking about Camille, her old neighbor, an icon in reality TV, when Taylor pops up with Linda Thompson. And Linda used to live, I have to say, Linda, well, we're about to dive. She used to live next door to Camille in that Malibu place. That's where, if you don't know who this icon, this glue who's on par with like Faye Resnick and keeping reality TV together. She was on a little show called Princes of Malibu, and it was the house next door to Camille's in their gated community. It's called Sarah Retreat. But that's like the least interesting part about her because she's given us so much.
The woman is so interesting and so fabulous. In fact, like the first ever PCP episode was our ideal Real Housewives of Beverly Hills if it had been done in like the early 90s. And she would have been like the star, like her, Faye, Kris Jenner, well, Kris Kardashian at the time, and Kathy Hilton. And I'm forgetting one other that we said.
Was it Candy? Well, it was set in Candy Spelling's gift wrapping room, but I don't think she was in the. She was just lending us the house.
Yeah, there was somebody else, but I can't remember. But anyway, but like, Linda Thompson is so she really is like in a lot of ways the perfect ideal Beverly Hills housewife because she's more than just a housewife.
So she's a famous songwriter. She was with Elvis, but where it really gets into it is, of course, she was married to Bruce Jenner. She's the mother of Brody Jenner.
And Brandon, right? I think.
Right. And then Bruce would go on to marry the Kardashians. And her kids are now half siblings with the Jenner kids. But it doesn't stop there. After Bruce, she moved on to David Foster. She was the wife before Yolanda, who would become a housewife. And there's seasons later when you remember Yolanda was David Foster, my king, my love. He when she's like, there's a point where she's like, everyone wants a piece of David. Even his ex-wife calls saying she wishes they could get back together. She's talking about Linda, which Yolanda was a little out there, but I mean, you will see Linda pop up throughout. I mean, she is connected. She connects Beverly Hills to the Fosters, to the Kardashians, to the Jenners. I mean,
But she was never a housewife herself?
No, friend of.
Okay.
And she is in the circle, though. I mean, I don't know about Kyle's circle, but she is in that like circle, like luncheons with. You'll see Kathy and all those like women, ladies.
It was kind of just odd that Taylor didn't have any plot line this episode at all, except for there was a brief scene of her shopping for clothes at her own, at her house for $1,000 tops and things. And then she meets with Linda at some restaurant or bar, and all they do is complain about how their kids don't know how rough they had it when they were younger. Like the kids only know wealth. And it was, I guess they just wanted to give her something to do. Not everybody has to be in every episode. I guess maybe contractually they are, but there was no reason. Taylor, she had nothing to add to that episode. Even that conversation with Linda Thompson was useless.
You get paid sometimes per episode, so it's good that she was there. So at least she got paid for that episode. So yeah,
right. And then you'll see coming up in a episode very soon, she will be the center of attention. Her kid's birthday party with something. Well, we should save that, but she will. But I guess where this episode heads then, of course, is spa day. Spa day with the Richards sisters.
And I said, because of where the spa day is at. It's at a place called Sonia Dakar, and I worked for Sonia Dakar fresh out of college many, many moons ago, before she was in that location. She was at a small little storefront on Beverly Boulevard, and I worked there for 9 months. She took 9 years off my life, that woman. All I'm going to say, because she's super litigious, is go read the Yelp reviews about her. Now, I take Yelp reviews with a grain of salt because I worked in the service industry for so long. So a lot of them, a lot of 1 stars, 2 stars are kind of like just people just yelling just to yell. This woman has an average of 2 stars. And if you on Yelp, the entire, there's a graph of how many 5 stars, how many, each star. The 1 star line is filled to the end. And people have written literally everything that they say about her is true. So just go read those Yelp reviews and get an idea of how awful this person is. And never, ever, ever, please never go give her money. Please go to any other facialist, any other esthetician in Los Angeles. There you go. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, it sounds like it was a really toxic place, which would be perfect for the scene.
1,000%. I was like, oh, look at this. Yes, exactly. Well, I'm sorry. Did you catch when Sonia said to Kyle, called Kim Kyle's mother?
That was,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She said, oh, well, your mom. And Sonia would do that all the time. She would stick her foot in her mouth because she's trying to kiss up to somebody and she's not really listening or reading the room or anything like that. So yeah, she literally called Kim Kyle's mother.
Oh God.
Yeah. On camera. And they kept that in.
Yeah. And Kyle had a look that kind of both said, oh, you shouldn't have said that. But also that's sweet of you to say. Yeah.
It's funny too, because where the conflict is in this, it's spa day for Kim's daughter Whitney's birthday, and I guess the big thing here, it's not that Kim is like Kyle's mom; it's that little sister. Kyle treats Kim like a kid. That seems to be the tension here. So what was it about? All the girls are together. They have their daughters together. And Whitney, the birthday girl, wants to go back to Houston for the summer.
To be with her boyfriend.
Yeah, and her father. Oh, that's a fun fact too. They don't talk about it a lot on the show. But I think for background, you guys need to understand how rich Kim Richards once was. The reason Whitney's going to Houston is her father, her father, Kim's ex-husband, is a Davis of Davis Oil. Brandon Davis's uncle. They owned the Beverly Hills Hotel and Fox. They were the richest family in Beverly Hills for many years. And we'll get into that later, but you just need to understand how glorious Kim's life once was before, and some of her kids are from that. So that's why she's heading down there. Her father has oil money. He runs the oil business. But of course, that was her past, which we'll dive into. But like I said, the thing here is I'm watching this early season almost like literature. It's very Shakespearean, the way you see, because we're going to see it unravel, this grand family with all their skeletons in the closet coming out, and the like deep, not Oedipal, is that there are big mommy issues, there are big sister issues. And then so when Kim's confronting Kyle for undermining her parental authority and meddling in her own parenting, there was one line which just like sets the tone for me, because we're going to see it for the rest of the series. Even to this day it's an issue, where Kim in her confessional says, I think loyalty between sisters is trusting that the other will be behind you no matter what. And as my heart skipped a beat, my mind exploded, and my flashed forward. Kathy would never act this way. Kathy would have my back like a real sister. It's like they're planting the seeds. Nate, you're gonna see this. It's Shakespearean. I'm sorry. That's why this sibling fight, this family fight continues 13, 14 seasons later. It will never be resolved.
It'll be there their whole lives in this entire franchise, as long as they are there.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait. Though at this point, I think the Amsterdam dinner can only be a disappointment, because you guys have spent years building it up. So I'm going to watch and I'll be like, huh, that's what they were talking about this whole time?
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
What season is that? I know you've told me before. Is that like 4 or 5?
Yolanda and Brandy were there. It was
it's a
probably
ways away.
Brandy's
It's a
last
ways
season.
away. Okay.
So that would be season 2. Like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
7. We'll get there eventually. But you know how you could help us in the meantime? Of course, rate, review, subscribe, and follow Pretty Corrupt Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. That's at Pretty Corrupt Podcast. On Twitter, that's at Pretty Corrupt One. And we are also now on YouTube. So we might need to get not Sonia Jakar. We're going to find another like esthetician who will glam us up a little.
Kate Somerville. Hey there.
Yeah. So on that note, who wants to say bye?
Adios.